I am about to get into this article and you see how I make this connection, and I'm sure that this might be a fairly easy one to understand. South Korea's middle aged men are dying lonely deaths. That is the headline. Just for visualization purposes and just for an aside, South Korea's birth rate is 0.84 births per woman. The replacement rate should be 2.1. So just keep this in mind. Now let's get into this article. A lonely death is when someone who lives alone, cut off from family or relatives, dies due to unaliving oneself or illness, with their body found only after a certain amount of time has passed. Factors behind this trend include the country's demographic crisis, gaps in social welfare, poverty, and social isolation, all of which have become more pronounced since COVID. Last year, the country recorded 3,378 such deaths. That's more than 9 per day. The number of men suffering lonely deaths was 5.3 times that of women in 2021, up from 4 times previously. People in their 50s and 60s made up to 60% of lonely deaths last year, with a large number in their 40s and 70s as well. People in their 20s and 30s accounted for 6% to 8%. Now, coming back to the birth rate. The country's birth rate has been dropping steadily since 2015, with experts blaming various factors such as demanding work culture, rising costs of living, and stagnated wages for putting people off parenthood. Now, is this starting to connect? Some of the consequences of this skewed age distribution are becoming apparent, with millions of aging residents struggling to survive. Let's just talk this one case. One case involving a 64-year-old laborer who died from alcohol-related liver disease a year after losing his job due to disability. He had no education, family, or even a cell phone. In another case, an 88-year-old woman suffered financial hardship following the death of her son. She died after the elderly welfare center she attended, which provided free meals, closed at the onset of the pandemic. Now, why am I saying all this? In America, the birth rate is declining, and it is because of cost. It's because women aren't respected. There are several factors: COVID, cost of living, inflation. I'll go into that. We're also seeing an increase in the rise of lonely men. This is also why this hospice care kid and hospice care wife conversation needs to continue. Connect it.